To create is to bring something into existence that wasn't there before. Regardless of whether we are formally making art, we are all living artists. I've been thinking a lot about my place as an artist. With AI kind of entering the chat, there's not really any shortage of existential crises. But one thing I've been thinking a lot about is that I don't just like to make one kind of art. I don't just make music. I also love to move and to cook. And I've noticed that many of my other artist friends have a lot of the same hobbies. And it kind of got me thinking, does getting better at one type of art make you better at other types of art? Or in other words, are there a certain set of rules that transcend medium? That if you can figure out these rules, you can be better at a bunch of different styles. My name is Nick Dashe. This is my Roman Empire, and I'm making it your problem. Let's dive into it. Now, I want to start with saying I don't think the goal here is to make the craft easy. There is an argument to be made that the effort you put into making something contributes to its value. Not all of its value, but it does contribute. I think if you see somebody work really hard on something and it turns out beautiful, then that can inspire us to want to work really hard on our own things. But on the contrary, you see a lot of particularly songwriters sit down and write some of the most beautiful music of their entire career, almost like they've heard the song before. It just kind of flows out of them. But I don't think that is evidence that the song is easy to make, but I do think it's evidence that a significant amount of the work in making the song happens way before they even sit down to create it. And this brings me to my first commonality between all mediums. If you have to think about how cool it is somebody made something and how smart they were and that they're breaking some kind of boundary, then I think that piece of artwork has high intellectual value. But I don't think that that alone is important. There's a sliding scale between that and something that I'm going to call, for the sake of this video, sensational value. An example of this would be if you go to a fine dining restaurant and you have this really weird like squid ink risotto that is a flavor you've never experienced before and the chef had to study for all these years to create it. It's delicious, but ultimately you're primarily getting out the intrigue of this new experience. Then I'd say it's more intellectual art. But on the other hand, if you grill with your dad and you have like a hamburger in the yard with nothing on it but ketchup, there's nothing intellectually stimulating about it, but sensationally, it's a really good feeling. And I think you can use this kind of sliding scale for lots of pieces of art. Think music. If you're listening to Jacob Collier do this, giant Lydian hyperchord, whatever, and you're thinking, wow, this guy is so smart, and that inspires you. You're thinking about the harmony, it's super dense, all this stuff, super intellectual. Versus if you're listening to a drum and bass song that the producer threw together in 20 minutes, but you and everyone on the dance floor is all dancing to it together, and you're able to have this like communal experience and it just feels good, I'd say it's high sensational. I don't believe that one of these is better than the other. I don't even really believe that they're truly mutually exclusive, though I don't believe that one of these is better than the other. But I do believe they kind of come at a cost of each other. And as an artist, you get to make the decision of what's important to you. So when you're starting your piece, you can ask, am I trying to make people think, or am I trying to make people feel? And then whichever path you go down is yours to make. What you do not have control over is how your art is perceived. Now, I've talked to a ton of musicians who say that their audience widely perceives a lyric they wrote totally different from the way they meant it when they were first writing the poetry. But I don't think music is the best example of this. I think it's movement. Now, I have gone back and forth on if I think parkour and other related sports are art, if they're the art of movement. Until I heard Bob Reese, one of the greatest American parkour athletes, say something in a video where he said, "This trick I came up with as I was falling asleep. That's how you write a song. That's how I write a song. It's such a common thing. You can't sleep, and then that's when you come up with this big creative idea. He came up with the idea for a new movement that nobody had ever done before while he's trying to fall asleep. That is art. But here's the thing. It's kinetic art. So for Bob, he is creating this movement that nobody else has ever done before. And for him, he is experiencing it through his body, through every muscle fiber, kinetically. But nobody else is ever going to experience it the way he experiences it, because they all see it with their eyes. And he can watch a video of himself, he can get it the way that other people do, but none of us are ever going to be able to feel that art to the same way that the artist creates it. And I think to a similar level, you're not able to really experience anyone's art the same way that the creator does. And that's okay, you're not supposed to. Now, all this to say, I'm just some guy. I'm just some guy on the internet who, as far as you know, doesn't even exist in real life. I hope you think I exist in real life, but you don't know that. So I wanted to talk to a couple different artists of different styles and see their opinions on this. But first, a thank you to our sponsors. It's you. Thank you, sponsor. There's no official sponsor for this video, but in all seriousness, it does take a lot of time and effort to make. So if you like what you're seeing and you would like to see more of it, please consider donating directly to my Venmo. A percentage of the proceeds are going to be going back into the community to help people in need. More on that at the end of the video. Well, thank you so much, Omar, for hopping on the call with me. It's so good to see you, man.
My pleasure.
What's up, guys? My name is Leif, aka at Leify_Tree on the social media platforms. I'm a producer, engineer, musician, and a music artist.
Okay, so my name is Omar Zaki. Quick overview is I was born in Dubai, then I was raised in the Washington, D.C. area in Northern Virginia, and then I moved to Los Angeles in 2016 to begin pursuing a career in Hollywood in the professional entertainment industry.
I am part of a band called the Rizzards. We are a multi-genre, all Filipino, mostly Filipino collective and band, and we performed everywhere in the past few years. Smithsonian, we did a recording academy gig recently.
I got obsessed with parkour in a way that I had never been obsessed about anything in my life. I was training 4 hours a day, I was filming myself constantly, and I was watching back the videos to learn what I was doing. And all of the kind of positive reinforcement that I was getting started to plant like a seed in my mind that I actually might be able to go to the place where they make the biggest projects. It's interesting, based on my time in the sport, you not only see how you move, you also see how other people who are also doing parkour move very differently from you. And it's so interesting how there is such like a personality touch to how someone does parkour. A person's personality and their natural way of thinking comes through in their parkour style. It is a form of expression through your body, through movement, and just like an unbelievable way to connect to the environment around you, because you're actually touching things, you're literally interacting with the structured world around you. And that's not a thing that most people do. Most people walk past walls and rails and whatever, anything.
And every person there lives your mind and then your heart and your spirit. And those two parts dictate whether you're intellectually thinking about something, it being good or bad. The other side would be if you're feeling like it's good or bad. And whenever I listen to music or absorb or play, I'm always trying to make sure I have a good balance of both. I think of absorbing and creating music in those two ways, and it helps me kind of navigate what I feel is good and what I think is good, because I think those are two different things. But to me, some of the best songs could be like a childhood folk song that I learned in music class, because it's so like singable and it's so easy to sing.
I feel like every athlete has their own foundation, like their bag of tricks, like their moves, and you'll have different moves than I'll have. And so I can tell that when I first show up to a new space, it's like the current move set that I have, my bag of tricks, is looking for somewhere to be used. And if I can do a front flip, but I can't do a back flip, I can see a spot and go, oh, that would be a good spot for a front flip. and then maybe there's another thing right in front of that. I've realized that I tend to, when I'm designing a line, I pick 3 or 4, like, call them like money shots or money moments. Like, I decide that I want those 4 to be kind of the highlight of that run. And I know that I want it to end with a banger. Everybody wants to end with a banger, something cool, something exciting.
Even in sound, when we hear something that exists in real life, dissonance, it already is like, oh, that's off. That is more in a scientific way of like why we think things are wrong. Because if you look at the numbers, it's not perfect harmony. It's like, oh, if you're looking at, and I'm gonna get really nerdy for a second, and maybe you guys won't understand, but you're looking at like a sine wave, and then you want to double up the frequency so you can get higher. It's literally a perfect double of that sine wave. So if it's 440, 880 would be that next octave. So that the numbers exist and why it sounds that way. So if it was like a little bit off, we could tell, because then you put the waves together. They don't, the hills and valleys are not like lining up, if that makes sense. But also, there's way to do dissonance really well too. The thing is that like there's so much talent in the world, but there's also the sense of marketing and branding yourself that gets you out there for them to hear the music that you have. So
just gonna keep doubling down. Gonna keep learning stuff, showcasing the skills, showcasing myself, what I'm doing, where I'm going, and I will continue to assume that good things will happen.
Hell yeah, man. Well, that's all the questions I have for you, man. Dude, thank you so much for your time.
Welcome back to my home. Okay, I realized that those interviews were a little bit misjointed, but even though I asked Omar and Leif both about questions specific to their art form, I think a lot of the things they said still kind of translate. Omar was saying that people's personality really come through in the arts they create. Leif was saying the reason something might not sound good could be because of the physical dissonance in the frequencies, not just someone's opinion. I guess I never really answered the question at the beginning of the video, but I hope that this whole kind of tangent that I went on gives you some food for thought so that you can answer the question in your own unique way to create your own unique art. And I'm really excited to see that. Anyway, thank you so much for sticking around to this point. The last thing I want to say before I disappear into the void is how to support this channel. You can donate directly to me on Venmo. This month, I'm going to be donating 30% of the proceeds from the video to the Coalition to Abolish Slavery and Trafficking. Now, I know 30% might not seem like a lot, but I want to do this every month for every project I do, because small percentages over time add up, and I want us to be a community that builds up the world, not just talks about the world. Cast has a perfect score on Charity Navigator and is leading the fight to stop child slavery. So if that's something you're interested in donating to, you can either support me and this channel, or you can donate to them directly. Both links are in the bio. I have a new video coming out next month. I've got music on Spotify. I'll see you there.